The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are simply that, opinions. All are presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
I'm Vinnie Politan, the subject of my investigation, the brutal murders of Keith, Jennifer, Sophia, and Jesse Caneiro, a New Jersey family living a great life in Colts Neck until this massacre. Why would anyone take out an entire family? Prosecutors say it was all about the money. Here's the story. They were brothers, business partners, and once inseparable. But prosecutors say behind the success and shared history of Keith and Paul Caneiro, resentment was quietly festering. On the morning of November 20th, 2018, two fires ignited hours apart in Monmouth County, New Jersey, one at Paul Caneiro's Ocean Township home, the other at Keith's sprawling Colts Neck house. Authorities alleged the first blaze was a calculated diversion. At the second scene, firefighters made a horrifying discovery. Keith Caneiro shot execution style in his yard. His wife Jennifer and their two young children, Jesse and Sophia, murdered inside the burning home. Investigators say the killings were deliberate and fueled by money. Accusations that Paul had been stealing from their businesses, was about to be cut off financially and removed from the family trust. Prosecutors claim Paul tried to destroy evidence with the fire, creating the illusion that the entire Caneiro family was under attack. Paul Caneiro has pleaded not guilty and faces life without parole if convicted. This is a big case in New Jersey. I mean, huge trial, took years in the making, a lot of litigation, but the investigation was very involved as well. You have at least two crime scenes with fires, plus quadruple murder, plus digging into the history of these brothers and this family and their businesses. So what I wanted to do right now is take a little bit of time and take a look at some of the evidence in the case that prosecutors have put forth in front of this jury. Let's take a look at it. We begin with an alleged murder weapon, a handgun. Right? Investigators and prosecutors say ballistics link a gun found in Paul's house and gun parts found in one of his vehicles to the gun used in the murders. Take a listen.
That gun, as well as the barrel and the silencer, were sent out to the New Jersey State Police Ballistics Unit for testing. In addition, the ballistic evidence located at 15 Willowbrook Road, so the bullets and the shell casings, those were also sent to the New Jersey State Police Ballistics Unit for testing and comparison. And you're going to hear about the conclusions of that testing. And what you're going to learn is that those conclusions included a finding that bullets and shell casings from 15 Willowbrook Road came from that barrel in his backpack and from the gun in his basement.
Okay, so one piece of evidence, the handgun. The next one, take a look at this, the jeans. Prosecutors say that bloody jeans found where? In Paul's house had DNA from both child victims, Sophia and Jesse. Take a listen.
There was this pile of charred items and articles all congealed together that was located right beneath the window well where the fire was started in the defendant's basement. In that pile was a pair of men's jeans with blood staining in multiple areas. Folded up in those jeans were 6 black nitrile gloves and 1 live round of ammunition. Same type of ammunition and head stamp that was found at 15 Willowbrook Road. Those jeans and those gloves, as well as numerous other items, were sent out for DNA testing. These sources of DNA located on multiple areas of those bloody jeans in the defendant's basement came from none other than his niece, Sophia Caneiro, and in one area from his nephew, Jesse Caneiro.
Okay, let's take a look at this next piece of evidence. This is a video. That's Paul Caneiro. That's Paul Caneiro in his own garage near the DVR for the surveillance system. You see the car behind him. He's in his own garage on video. Watch what happens. He reaches in there, and then all of a sudden, what happens? Okay. You don't see it in this piece of video, but when he presses the button, it all goes blank and it turns off. It's video of him literally turning off the DVR to his own surveillance system. Right in that moment, right when it freezes there, then it goes blank. No more video from that point forward, 1:28 in the morning. Next piece of evidence. Video, headlights. Prosecutors say it is Paul's Porsche, seen on home surveillance roughly between the hours of 2 and 4 a.m. driving from his neighborhood and then returning and driving from his neighborhood to Keith's neighborhood where he's picked up on video, then picked up on video about 90 minutes later, leaving Keith Caneiro's neighborhood and returning back to his neighborhood. Again, the video, I'm going like this watching the video, right? The video is kind of dark, but prosecutors say it matches the Porsche. Finally, the last piece of evidence I want to go through right now, the phone calls. Paul Caneiro speaking with Keith Caneiro. Keith calling his brother about some discrepancy in the trust fund and the payments to the trust fund. He calls his brother. This is the night, the day before the murders. Take a look and a listen.
Login, Paul. Give me the login, Paul. Oh, I'm worried. I need to know where it went. All right, an hour or two. An hour or two. An hour or two, Paul. 7 o'clock.
Keith not happy with Paul. Wants the password, trying to figure out where the money was going. That's supposed to pay for the trust account. That's like the money for his kids. And it wasn't being paid. And why wasn't it being paid? And Paul was being a little elusive, to say the least. That's right before the murders, hours before the murders. So taking a look at that, the handgun, the jeans, the surveillance video, the surveillance of Paul, the surveillance of the Porsche, the phone calls between the brothers. All of that brings us to the first question in our investigation. What's the most compelling evidence? Is it one of these pieces of evidence or maybe something else? Joining me, former NYPD officer, retired Nassau County Lieutenant Commanding Officer Mike Gould is with us, and true crime podcaster from Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi. Tony Bruschi is here. All right, let's go, Mike. What do you say here? What is the most compelling evidence? You're investigating this case. Which piece of evidence makes you go, aha?
Yeah, Vinny, thanks for having me. So number one, we'll start with acknowledging there's a presumption of innocence. But these allegations are overwhelming. Every bit of that evidence that you just described, the 4 or 5 pieces, are all compelling. And in their totality, they are going to prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt, regardless of the defense experts that are going to try to throw coverage on it and dispute the ballistics findings, the DNA. This is going nowhere. This is a monster. On my LinkedIn account, I call it evil personified. I was a cop in New York for 25 years, and I have a soft spot in my heart for children and animals because they are the most defenseless creatures on earth. And for this guy to look his nephew and niece in the eyes, stab them to death, the jury is not going to be sympathetic to this guy whatsoever. So to answer your question regarding the evidence, all in its totality is beyond a reasonable doubt.
Okay. I think he's running for office, Tony, because he didn't exactly answer the question, but he sort of did. And he gave us a lot more. Tony Bruschi, from your perspective, what's the most compelling evidence here?
Oh, my goodness. It feels like if we're looking at a countdown here, it's coming in this week at number 1 on Casey's Countdown. I'm going to go with the murder weapon in the basement. I mean, the genes are pretty strong, too, with the niece and nephew's DNA right there, blood-stained latex gloves in his basement. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. It's like, what is not an almost home run here that just one piece of evidence wouldn't be just prayed for in so many other trials. This isn't circumstantial. This isn't, well, maybe. This is a forensic roadmap that starts with 4 dead bodies and ends in Paul Caneiro's house. And then you got the 1:28 a.m. footage, his own security camera capturing him walking into the garage. And then the system goes dark. He shuts it off. Hours later, his brother is shot dead on the front lawn. His sister-in-law is stabbed and shot inside. And the 2 kids, one of them stabbed 17 times, including in the eye, are left to die in the burning house. He was able to fight the New Jersey Supreme Court to a certain extent, and then he lost, and then the footage was admitted. If that was so not important, why the fight? And of course, you got the $78,000 drained from the trust, the angry phone calls, Keith cutting off his salary hours before the murders. That's icing on the cake here, but you don't even need it because the cake is already in the basement.
Let me ask you, Mike, let's go to the basement here. I'll give you a multiple choice this time. You ready? Which do you trust more, ballistics or DNA?
Right. So I agree with Tony. This is a countdown, the top 4 or 5 countdown. And initially, my thoughts did go to the ballistics. The ballistics is going to be pretty easy to identify. And I think that is the most reliable. More importantly than reliability, it's the jury's ability to comprehend it. Where DNA is it's certainly baffling to me when DNA experts testify for 5, 6, 7 hours, they've lost me. The ballistic evidence is going to be very straightforward. It's very compelling. So that's number 1 on my countdown of compelling evidence.
Yeah, and I agree with both of you. And the DNA in this case, I think, is second because it's a type of DNA evidence that New Jersey has not used to a great extent. And I think the defense will bring that up. There's also the familial aspect of it, of Paul, his brother, his niece. I mean, I think there's some level of explanation that will be attempted, but the ballistics, I don't think you can get around that. All right, great job tonight. Mike Gould, great to see you. Tony's going to stick around. Coming up next, why was Paul Caneiro awake in the middle of the night?
One person who had the means, the motive, and the opportunity. And that person is sitting right here today.
The Court TV podcast will return.
And then he waited. Waited in the dark. Waited in the shadows. Waited for his brother Keith to come outside. Sure enough, when Keith came out to check the generator, the defendant gunned him down. The defendant pointed that loaded handgun at his brother, and he pulled the trigger 6 times. 5 of those shots hit Keith. He got him in the lower back and multiple times in the head.
Still hard to believe. Still hard to believe. Allegations that this is all about money. Yikes. Okay. Let's go through those early morning hours, right? Like, prosecutor's theory is that he's awake like all night long, doesn't go to sleep. Here's the fire marshal who spoke with Paul Caneiro, because he was one of the people responding to the fire, talking about what Paul told him about the night of the fire. Take a close listen.
I went to bed around 6, upstairs in the spare bedroom. About 11 o'clock, he came down to take some medicine. Then he went back upstairs. At some point during that night, he came back downstairs to to work on the computer, and then he went back upstairs. I said that he woke up to the smoke alarms, and he ran to the master bedroom to get his wife, and then the other bedrooms to get the girls out. And they all went downstairs out the garage.
Okay, so there's an admission there, or a description at least, by Paul Caneiro to the fire chief that he's up, right? I got up, I got to take some medicine. I got up, I did some work. The smoke alarm went off, I got up again. Okay. Let me show you that video again from the garage. Remember the time here, 1:28. 1:28 a.m., boom. He's in there, then the video goes black. The video's recording him, then it goes black. But he's awake. I can't quite tell what he's wearing there. But he's obviously up at 1:28 in the garage. Okay. Let's take a listen to the detective talking about this.
What happened there, Detective?
An individual appears on the lower portion of the camera frame.
Now, you can continue playing to the end. Now, Captain Weisbrot, to be clear, what happens at approximately 2:28:35 of that video clip?
The screen immediately goes black.
Did you learn what happened?
Yes, I did.
What was that?
DVR system was turned off.
Okay. He's awake. He's in the garage. He's got his story of what he's doing. And in both scenarios, he is up, which brings us to the next question in our investigation. Why was Paul Caneiro awake in the middle of the night? Joining me, private investigator Lauren Bellucci, still with us, podcaster Tony Bruschi. All right, Lauren, what's your theory here on why Paul Caneiro's awake in the middle of the night?
Well, he had things to do, Vinny. He had surveillance video to turn off. He had a 20-minute drive, and then he had a generator to cut the wires to so that he could lure his brother out to take his life. And then he had to go into the house and finish what he had started. So, of course, you got to be up to be able to do that.
Let me ask you, Tony Bruschi, do you think at any point he went to sleep that night, or was this one of those, what we used to call in college, an all-nighter?
I'm going to go with all-nighter. I don't think sleep was ever part of the plan in the equation here for him that night. I think he was rearing to go. I think when he pulled that cord, it was like kind of pulling the ripcord on one of those inflatable rafts. And once you pull it, it's going to inflate. And that was his plan. And he was out to execute that plan. That's why he was up. He just didn't have a plan on what to do after he executed the execution. Like what to do with the jeans, with his niece and nephew's DNA on, the blood-stained gloves, the optics of the $78,000 drained from the brothers' trust, the confrontation hours before, the salary they got cut off that day, the fact that he allegedly torched his own house with his family inside and then sat in the Porsche outside like he was waiting for coffee. It's all 1:28 a.m. in the morning. It's all a router problem. That's all it is. There's nothing else going on here, Vinny. Nothing to see at all.
Lauren, the fact that he's caught on video turning off the video, how does he not realize that? How does it
Well, I think he...
How does he not realize, listen, it's your security system, your surveillance cameras, you know where they are, and yet this was somehow the way he turned them off.
Yeah, I don't think he's the sharpest tool in the shed, and that is apparent with the rest of his, moves that night. But certainly he didn't even try to sneak around the cameras. He knew the angles and what he can see in his own footage when you're on the app looking at your own, videos. So he was not bright, and he led the police down a long trail, and every single piece of evidence fits this timeline and this puzzle of the night, and they have him. He's toast.
Tony, do you think the garage was part of the alleged plan for it to go up in flames and that the DVR itself would be lost?
Yes, I think he thought everything was going to go up in flames. That was the end game. That's the thing he so dramatically miscalculated, was how fire travels and what it takes for fire to travel and where to set fires to make them do what you want them to do. I mean, he should have maybe studied that a little bit more. I don't know. But yes, I think that was the part of the equation that completely ruined everything for him when all of the evidence didn't get torched.
Yeah. His brother's house got torched pretty well because the fire wasn't detected because the people inside the house were all dead. The people in his house were all alive and all survived. His family unharmed. That's the other thing here, Lauren, when you look at the big picture of this case and this story. If some third party, like his other brother or someone was doing this, like there is, why would you let them survive? Why wouldn't you just kill both families? That part never added up to me, that it would be a third party, because why would the third party let 4 people survive but kill the other 4, especially when 2 of them were so young?
Yeah, you're exactly right. And that's the thing. He tried to set this up to look like a hit, and he did a terrible job. If this was a professional hit over things like money on a business thing gone wrong, they would have made sure that both families were gone. And so he didn't think any of this through, in my opinion. And it's sloppy, and it's self-serving. It is absolutely self-serving. I cannot get out of my mind the fact of these children were alive when this fire was set. And it's just sickening. And I think the jury is going to take that into consideration big time.
Tony Bruschi, Hidden Killers. Great to see you. Thanks so much. Lauren's going to stick around. Still to come. When did the killer decide to carry out the murders?
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
I'm Vinnie Politan. We continue our investigation of the murders of Keith Caneiro, his wife, and his children, murdered with a gun and a knife. A brutal, bloody ending for this New Jersey family. And prosecutors say it was Keith Caneiro's own brother who did it. Here's the story. The Caneiro case is not just a murder trial. It is a portrait of a family imploding under financial pressure and alleged betrayal. Prosecutors say Paul Caneiro, once dependent on his younger brother Keith, watched his world unravel as Keith moved to cut him out of their businesses, salary and trust. According to prosecutors, Keith believed Paul had been siphoning tens of thousands of dollars, including money earmarked for his children's futures. Days later, Keith, his wife Jennifer, and their children were dead. Authorities allege Paul carefully staged 2 fires, one at his own home before dawn, another at Keith's house, to mask the crime and mislead investigators. Surveillance evidence, forensic findings, and ballistic evidence form the backbone of the state's case. The defense insists Paul Caneiro was innocent and has waited years for his chance to clear his name. Now, after more than 7 years, a jury will decide whether jealousy and money led to one of New Jersey's most brutal family massacres. Now, the allegation here is that Paul Caneiro murdered his brother and that he planned it. But I want to go through the timeline of some of the evidence that we've seen and heard relative to what the issues were and what was going on between these brothers, where the friction would be. I want to begin here. Take a listen to the prosecutor describe something that happened with Paul taking some money from Keith.
In about January of 2017, the evidence will show that the defendant began taking money from that trust bank account, that TD bank account, sometimes to the detriment of paying the premiums. Sometimes you'll see he paid the premiums, sometimes he didn't. Now, in April of 2018, Keith called him out on it. When confronted, the defendant told Keith that he accidentally transferred money to the wrong payee, that he went and paid a school loan. $25,054 to be precise, but he accidentally transferred that money. He apologized, he said he would make restitution, and he said that he had his, quote, head up his ass, his words.
Oops. So this is really one of the first indications that there's this trust account, and the trust account is really to benefit Keith's family. It's one of those whole life insurance policies where he's dumping tons of money into it, money that's not going to disappear, but money that can be used in a trust to help the kids. Anyhow, now take a listen to this. There's some messages between the brothers. The detective, Brian Migliosi, here is reading these messages. Again, this is a back and forth between Paul and Keith Caneiro. This is closer in time to the murders.
From Keith Caneiro. So off with this already. From Keith Caneiro. 100 emails and conversations, and you can't follow up properly on any of them. From Keith Caneiro. Where the is my one-page explanation from the 401k fiasco that I asked you for months ago? From Paul Caneiro. I'm at the doctor's for my back in Philly. I told you yesterday I wasn't going to be around. I'll call you shortly. From Keith Caneiro. You aren't entitled to anything. You should have just been happy that I was trying to help you out since your accident. From Paul Caneiro. Okay, thank you. From Paul Caneiro. I'm sorry I asked. From Keith Caneiro. Paul, we are done. I'm not paying you moving forward. You have to find a way on your own. From Paul Caneiro. I said okay. From Keith Caneiro. I put Susan on the books. I match your taxes for your kids. You give yourself a giant raise in 2013. Our employees didn't get raises for years while we were losing customers. From Keith Caneiro. Then you, quote unquote, helped me by never helping me, making me crazy, undermining me with the people. From Keith Caneiro. We are done. You want me to be the villain? I'm the bad guy.
Wow. Temperature rising there. Temperature rising. Last thing I want to show you. Surveillance video from inside Keith Caneiro's home when he makes the phone call. This is just before the murders. This is the day leading up to the overnight hours of the murders, where Keith is calling Paul because there's a problem that he found with the accountant with the trust fund payments. The payments aren't being made, the premiums for the insurance. Where's the money going? The statements say they were paid, but the bank is saying they weren't paid. What is going on? And Keith wants to get to the bottom of it. You hear his side of the conversation that is recorded by the surveillance in his home. Let's watch.
Paul, I'm telling you, I need it. I need it. I need it. Give me the login, Paul. Give me the login, Paul. Paul, just give me the login so I can see where the money went. Then get on your computer and tell me where the money went. Paul, somebody else could read it to you there. I need to know where that money went. What's a little while, Paul? I understand you're saying you need to wake the up, Paul. I'll come, Paul, I'm telling you. I just spent half the day looking at this. I need to know where it went. Paul. Paul. Are you sure it went to the right place this time? You have cash checks? You have cash checks? Paul. I hear what you're saying. Paul, I'm worried. I need to know where it went. All right, an hour or two. call 7:30 o'clock.
Okay, all of this, these communications back and forth, brings us to the next question in our investigation. When did the killer decide to carry out the murders? At what point here? Still with us, private investigator Lauren Vellucci, and joining me, criminal defense attorney, former head New Jersey County prosecutor Bob Bianchi. All right, Bob, when do you think the killer here decided to carry out these murders? At what point is like, okay, this is what I need to do?
I think it happened right there, Vinny. I think that everything had reached a fever pitch. I got one other theory. Not only is he being pressed about the money, he stole the money. This relationship is deteriorated. Both of them feel betrayed. This is like a divorce. Each party thinks the other one is at fault. They're enraged, they're outraged, but he's also got to worry about going to jail, because that's the next step for Keith, is to go to the authorities to say, where did this money go? So his whole life is crumbling. Do I think that maybe he had thought about these kind of things before and maybe wasn't going to act on them? I don't think that this was a light switch moment, but this phone call was the one where he went into action because he was at the end of the road. The gig was up. This is brutal, brutal evidence for the defense. And I'm sitting here as a lawyer thinking, how do I tap dance around this?
Lauren, what are your thoughts? At what point did it go from an alleged discrepancy about money or a fight about money, a fight about the business, to I am going to kill my brother?
Well, I think Bob is spot on like usual. I mean, it was not a well thought out plan whatsoever. You can tell that by the way that the night transpired. He was at his end of his rope, just like Bob said. He had no more, oops, I accidentally transferred this money to give anymore. He had done this for years. If you listen to the audio, Keith says, well, are you sure it went to the right place this time? So this is an ongoing thing. And he knew he had nothing else to possibly make sense to his brother, and he was going to get caught. And I think Bob's idea of the jail, I think that's a fantastic one. And it was exactly what he was concerned. And he had to act. In his opinion, he panicked.
Bob, do you think that Keith would have gone to authorities? I still think, like, they're brothers. I think at some point, things will be different, but I can't imagine that Keith would want him. I see him more like quoting The Godfather again. No, Paulie. Your punishment is you're out of the family business.
Yeah, look what happened to Paulie. So in the movie. But listen, I equate it to a divorce. The most acrimonious cases that I have been involved in as a prosecutor are domestic violence, if you will, related or domestically related, because the loyalty has been breached. On top of the fact that the money is stolen, there's a whole family history, and this guy seems like he's literally at his wit's end. And to answer your other question, have I seen family members go to the prosecutor's office to recover money that they believe are stolen in business? Happened all the time. In fact, we had so many of those cases, we didn't have enough prosecutors and investigators to investigate them. But I'll say that the sinister piece to this is the defendant orchestrates this plan, and he's got to make it look like I'll burn both houses down. There's all sorts of money with this. There's insurance money. There's money maybe with this policy that he gets. I don't think he's really thinking about that so much, but he's going to literally burn down both houses and 4 people in order to execute this plan. That's what makes it so sinister.
Yeah. And it actually is a lot of money, Lauren, if you think about it, right? If it's the value of the home, it's the insurance, and then it's taking over the businesses and whatever value is left in those businesses. If he sells the businesses, he gets 100%. I mean, this would have been a windfall of money for Paul Caneiro.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I don't buy what the defense was trying to sell in their opening, that it wasn't that much money to them. People don't get rich by just blowing their money. They just don't. He was a savvy business owner, and he had a brother who was just completely not doing anything. And then all of a sudden he's stealing money. I mean, I can only imagine. So absolutely. He had a lot to gain by this, and I think he with his selfish motives the whole time that he was in business, he only thought of himself, and he only was motivated by money, and that's exactly he thought about himself, and he finally acted on that in the way that he did.
Yeah, and I it's not evidence, but I just think of the Porsches. Like, I have to have a Porsche. Like, I can't afford a mansion, but I can drive around and feel like, my brother driving the Porsche. And that's what I'm getting from all this. Bob's going to stick around. Lauren Vellucci, thank you so much. Great to see you. Coming up next, will Paul Caneiro testify?
I've been having problems with stuff in the garage.
You've been having problems with stuff in the garage?
Yeah.
This is the Court TV podcast.
Corey Caneiro was on the outside of that. They never investigated Corey. They never looked into Corey. They never did a single thing to investigate Corey. Not a single thing.
So the defense spent a lot of time, not a lot of time, but caught our attention talking about the other Caneiro brother, Corey Caneiro, and sort of pointing the finger at him, saying he's never been investigated in all of this, which is interesting, which tells us, hey, maybe that's where they're going to go on the defense. But where is the evidence that Corey Caneiro had anything to do with any of this, other than the fact that he's a brother? Let's take a look at this, though. This is some of the small amount of video that we've seen so far of Paul Caneiro actually speaking. It's a body camera video of a responder to the fire at his home. Take a look and a listen.
How you doing, sir? It's your house?
Yes.
Where is all the DVD stuff for the cameras and everything in the house?
It's in the garage.
It's in the garage?
Yeah.
Where in the garage at?
You walk in the garage and it's all the way up top to the left.
Up top to the left? Do you have them running right now?
I've been having problems with stuff in the garage.
You've been having problems with stuff in the garage?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have to take it over actually with one of the companies.
Okay. All right.
I bet the red flags went up right away. What? You've been having problems with it, so it's not working? We're not going to see what happened here? But you do see him allegedly turning it off. Anyhow, the jury heard that, but we haven't heard from Paul Caneiro in the courtroom. What we have seen is this. And it's been a pretty consistent demeanor throughout the course of the trial. It's, be good for playing poker. I don't know what he's thinking. And, that's what your lawyers, defense lawyers, usually tell you to do. Something kind of like that. But they've only heard him on that video. Brings us to the final question in our investigation this hour. Will Paul Caneiro testify, the defendant, perhaps to provide some information about his brother Corey? Joining me, retired FBI Special Agent Stuart Fillmore is still with us. New Jersey attorney Bob Bianchi. Stuart, what are your thoughts here? Do you think this guy is going to testify? And if so, what kind of evidence could he provide that maybe the defense needs to make some sort of an argument here?
In a word, Vinny, no, he's not going to testify. When I started thinking about this, the case that came to my mind was the Casey Anthony case, where she didn't testify in that case, where she was alleged to have murdered her daughter, but she effectively testified through her attorney's opening statement and then his closing statement, where he made some really outrageous allegations that were never proven against, I think, Casey's brother and her father. So unless, maybe in the closing statements, we're going to see some wild allegations against Corey, the brother, I just don't see him taking the stand. He doesn't strike me as very charismatic and well-spoken and the type guy that thinks he can get up there and convince the jury that he's innocent.
Well, Stuart, I will say this. It's an amazing analogy you made, but it also gives me PTSD. I was down there for all of that. That was a rough moment for me, but really a rough moment for prosecutors. and for the victim in the case. Bob, what are your thoughts here? Do you agree with Stuart that there's like 2 chances of him testifying, Slim and none, and Slim just walked out the door?
Well, let me just say, I don't know how to approach this as a prosecutor or defense lawyer, but as a prosecutor in me, I would salivate to get this guy on the witness stand. I cannot lose on cross-examination of this guy because I'll either blow him up with his answers or I'll just go through my whole direct case and have him say no. Oh, so the jeans were there with the blood. Do you dispute that? Oh, so the gun was found, the barrel was found, the backpack was found, the passport was found, the money was found. I don't care what he says. I'm just going to go through my whole direct case through him, and I'm pretty confident I'm going to trip him up. Now, we may have a blink by the defense in this case in their opening statement when they're saying they failed to investigate. This is the biggest concern I had when I was a prosecutor. They may go to the jury because they're going to get a jury charge if he does not testify, which I would think his lawyer is going to recommend. We'll see what kind of maniac this guy is. Maybe he'll want to get up there and tell his story, deny it in front of his family and in front of the public, knowing he's going down in flames. Or do they want to argue all the things they should have done that they didn't do? And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, you should not feel comfortable to remove him cloaked in the presumption of innocence and proof of guilt beyond a reasonable doubt if they failed to do the things you expect they should have done, like investigate his other brother, etc., and so forth. He gets on that stand, he is going to get decimated.
Yeah, he's also cloaked in those plaid sweaters that they've been putting him in. Very interesting. Right? Look, it's like I don't know if it's the same one with a different shirt each time.
No, it's different. A Jersey guy look.
No, it's not.
Hey, come on.
What is he doing? What is he doing? Stuart, what would you like to ask him? Like, if you had an opportunity to interrogate him at this point, where would you start?
Oh, wow. Boy, the table is full on that. I mean, where do you start? There's so much evidence here. The forensics of it, the ballistics of it are just so damning on the guy that, it's hard to think of anything else. But I will say this. There are a couple of things that do give me a little bit of problem. Is the neighbor, I think, that saw the 2 men outside of Paul's house. I think she described hearing 2 voices. Does that imply that maybe Corey helped him? And maybe the defense can bring that out, but man, it's pretty strong against Paul. I just don't see where they go.
All right. So I'm not going to hold my breath for him to testify, but we shall see. We've been surprised before. Stuart Fillmore, Bob Bianchi, fantastic. Thank you so much. Paul Caneiro does not strike me as the brains of the operation in the business he ran with his younger brother, Keith. That may explain some of the alleged mistakes he made in this case. I always say, they don't catch the smart ones, folks. But if he is truly, factually innocent, I do think he needs to tell his story to make it make some sense. Otherwise, the jury may see his actions as quite questionable. I'm Vinnie Politan. We'll keep digging for answers as the investigation continues.
There you have it. If you want to see more in-depth reporting on the latest true crime stories, you can see me every weeknight, 8 p.m. Eastern on Closing Arguments. Thank you so much for downloading. And as always, please don't forget to hug the kids.
This podcast is a production of Court TV. Go to CourtTV.com for more content, trials on demand, and to find out how to watch Court TV in your area.